All right. Well, we're back with another episode of the Average Pastor Podcast with Mark, with my pastor friends, Jake and Jeff. So we're having another conversation this morning. Or this morning. What is it? This afternoon?
Yeah, it's
3 o'clock.
Depends on when people are listening. I guess.
Or whatever. So I came across the ultimate average pastor psalm.
Whoa.
This psalm needs to be like a banner over every average pastor's life. It's Psalm 131. Ryan Hamby shared this with me, and it's from the Message translation, and it just hit. Listen to this. Psalm 131. God, I'm not trying to rule the roost. I don't want to be king of the mountain. I haven't meddled where I have no business, or fantasized grandiose plans. I've kept my feet on the ground. I've cultivated a quiet heart. Like a baby content in its mother's arms, my soul is a baby content. Wait, Israel, for God. Wait with hope. Hope now. Hope always. Isn't that good?
That is really good. That's probably, I think, Eugene Peterson's most masterful contribution is the Psalms, right? I mean, to take Hebrew poetry, and he was an incredible Hebrew scholar, and to bring the English to bear out the emotion, the creativity. That's because that's not a word for word translation. You know what I mean? That's but if you bringing it to life, that's beautiful.
But if you go back and read the Psalm, you're like, yeah, actually, that is.
Yeah.
That's a very accurate, I mean, it's an accurate kind of thought for thought translation, but
100%.
I haven't, that it kind of helped me, because I've read that psalm before. Yeah. Do you have a Bible? We could read it from the,
no, I don't.
I was going to say, we're in Jeff's
study.
We're in Jeff's study. I was wondering if we could find what the translation is of, Psalm 131. I don't know. Can you read it? Psalm 131. Yeah. It's I just love that.
O Lord, my heart is not lifted up. My eyes are not raised too high. I do not occupy myself with things too great or too marvelous for me, but I have calmed and quieted my soul like a weaned child with his mother, like a weaned child with my soul within me. O Israel, hope in the Lord for this time forth and forevermore.
Yeah. I just love the opening line. God, I'm not trying to rule the roost. I don't want to be king of the mountain. What does it say in yours?
Yeah, CSB? Lord, my heart is not proud. My eyes are not haughty. I do not get involved with things too great or too wondrous for me. Yeah.
Man,
that's beautiful. That should add that psalm like to the
You put it on the wall there.
What's that?
Got to put it on the wall somewhere.
Yeah.
Isn't pride just getting involved in things that are too big for me? Like, I love that. I haven't fantasized grandiose plans. Especially when you think about leadership, like, are you a visionary leader? How grandiose are your plans? That's like the mark of leadership. How do you? Doesn't it feel like you just feel the incongruity of Psalm 131 and every leadership book you've ever read?
No lie. That's so
How
true.
do those things go together?
Doesn't it feel like leadership books that are geared and written toward pastors who really believe the Bible, shouldn't they be markedly different than secular ones for reasons like this, right? You know what I mean? Like, how is it that many of them are remarkably just a reflection with Bible verses on what you could read from any?
Yeah.
Is it because a lot of leadership principles, whether they attribute it to or not, are actually biblical? Is that why they sound like it? Or is it because Christians are just dressing up those leadership books with passages? I don't know. I don't know which it is more of.
This psalm represents one of my biggest concerns about young pastors.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Trying to rule the mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the climbing to the top. I think but you don't want to wet blanket a young person's ambition. You want to channel it.
Well, but verse 2, instead I have calmed, what is it in yours? Let me read this one. Instead I have calmed and quieted my soul.
This says, I've kept my feet on the ground. I've cultivated a quiet heart.
So that's what I'm saying. Not a wet blanket in the sense of suffocating.
Yeah.
But maybe you do want to say, hey man, do you have a calm heart? Do you have a contented, calmed heart that's like a weaned child with its mother? Is your soul like a weaned child? That's what he said. My soul is like a weaned child.
But then wait, Israel, for God, wait with hope. Hope now, hope always. It's like, no, get after it, O Christian pastor, for God. Get after it and change the world for God. Do great things for a great God. Like that's the... I think that is like gasoline on the fire, where gasoline can hurt. I burned my leg. I spent some time in the hospital over that. But like, it's not, I just think that tone of, hey, wait, patience, you know.
Yeah, if you're talking about like a fish doesn't even know he's wet. Do you think just as an American church influenced by the industrial age and corporate influence that sometimes we're just even unaware of how the church has been shaped,
right,
and influenced by our culture that does stand in contrast to like Psalm 131 or calls of what does it mean to be a pastor to people in a way that's different than leading an organization and trying to, get it bigger and better. And
I was thinking of that in our last episode. I was talking about reading this Reagan biography, but I also read historical fiction, I think you call it, called Wolf Hall. Actually, James Pusey gave it to me for Christmas. And it's about Thomas Cromwell, Henry VIII, and just the quick, that moment in history. Henry VIII wants to have an heir, is not producing a male heir, just a daughter, but not a son, through this Spanish woman that he had married. So he wants to figure out how to get her out of the way so he can get somebody in there to have a male heir. So in order to do that, has to leave the Catholic Church. Thus we have, Anglicanism to this day, is because Henry VIII became the head of the church, but the Church of England spurned chaos. Okay, so, but the way that leadership and religion were all woven together in that moment, right? So the bishops had to be in line with the political aspirations of the king. And so the civil authority and Christian authority were so intertwined in such a putrid way. So as I'm reading it, one of the reasons it's good to read history is you're like, yeah, it's easy to look back and just, shake your head and wag your accusing finger at Henry VIII, but you're like, okay, so what about Christian leadership today has just gotten intertwined or tainted by authority structures or what, you know what I'm saying? Like history does in that way, not exactly, but in that way does repeat itself. So anyway, it's given me a lot of moments of reflection. Like that is sick. That is sick. The way that religion is being kind of not even manipulated or coerced, like actively involved and engaged in very unbiblical things going on. Anyway, yeah, it's terrible, terrible moment.
Do you? I came across this quote by John Calvin. He says, "Men are never duly touched and impressed with a conviction of their insignificance until they have contrasted themselves with the majesty of God."
Whoa, say that again.
I just read that.
No way.
Not long ago,
Yeah, it's in the Institutes. Men are never duly touched and impressed with a conviction of their insignificance until they have contrasted themselves with the majesty of God.
Wow.
I think that was R.C. Sproul. Quoting Calvin where I came across it. I think he referenced that in The Holiness of God.
But this is the whole premise of the advantage of average concept, because people have a real issue with it, because it feels like you're saying, Like you should lack ambition. You should just not even try. You should be half-hearted, mediocre, live in a box. But that's not really, this quote gets to the heart of it. The whole point is nobody is amazing when they're contrasted with the majesty of God. Like you are not a big deal. But what you think.
Yeah, no, but I think understanding that sets us up for leadership, because for me, what comes to mind clearest in that quote is Isaiah 6, where leaders should have a woe is me posture. Because in contrast to God, Isaiah had a clear view of himself, and it was a woe is me moment. But that flushes itself out to the point where he's saying, here I am, send me.
Yeah.
I'll go. I'll do it, because you have a humbled view of you. You have a big view of God. You're now equipped to lead. If you don't have a woe is me posture and God is holy, you're a really dangerous leader. Like you don't want to try to be, here I am, send me. I'll kill it, you know. That kind of disposition can be dangerous.
So true. Yeah.
So there was this thing where, this is years ago, probably 20 years ago, where Bono from U2, lead singer, they're interviewing him and they're asking him, he was doing this whole campaign, like making poverty history and going around and just trying to raise awareness for especially Africa. And so anyway, they asked him, like, you're talking to these world rulers, like presidents and prime ministers, and don't you ever get nervous around them? He's like, I don't get nervous. I'm the one representing God to them. Like, they're the ones that should be nervous. Now, whether or not Bono was, but the point of,
right,
like, no, I'm the one.
Yeah.
That when you have a sense of God's calling, and it's like, was Jesus nervous before Pilate? Well,
and David before Goliath. Goliath was, I'm awesome. And David, in his trash talking, was, God is awesome. It was, in David's mind, it was not David versus Goliath. It was God versus Goliath.
Right.
David did step out there with a lot of self-confidence. David stepped out there with a lot of faith. And I think that's the difference. Like, we're not supposed to lead with all this self-confidence. We're supposed to lead with faith.
Okay, I thought you were going when you started talking about Bono, because you started with The Message and Eugene Peterson. So remember when when he wanted to come.
He went to his place in Montana, and I think. I do remember that. Yeah,
when they were asking Eugene Peterson, "Are you nervous about meeting Bono?" and he's like, "Who's Bono?"
Yeah, I don't know who that is. I was talking to Drew Stevenson. He's up at Redemption in Twin Cities, but he was saying, we were talking about Eugene Peterson. He's like, Eugene Peterson is kind of, he's the average pastor, and one of his biggest ministry regrets was speaking at this big church planning conference.
Oh, that's right.
Do you remember where he talks about that? Where he's like,
I don't remember what the conference was.
He felt like, and they were trying to almost like turn him into a pipeline. Like, let's kind of share you with the world, and you come and share, and we'll just kind of download this, and you got, all these high powered who's who of evangelical leaders. We got, I don't know who, Andy Stanley, and then we're going to have Eugene Peterson, and they're interviewing. And I think afterwards he felt like, he felt like it was almost a carnival. I'm not trying to quote him, but it was almost a carnival-esque experience, you know what I mean? And he felt like he should not have participated when the show must go on, you know what I mean? Yeah. I thought that was cool. How do you know when to say no to an opportunity that's like, it's a big speaking thing, maybe
because we're all dealing with that.
We're gonna have to go
Yeah,
into the mysterious
I'm glad you
unknown.
brought that up. I've been wrestling with this thing. I could use some counsel,
You
guys.
know, I was thinking, yeah, like the time I invite you to come and speak at VST, and I was,
If Jake says no, he can't come speak to your.
It felt like a carnival.
That Saturday morning seminar with the half asleep students that
we've got
were.
really good donuts.
Hey, that's
we bring in
true.
really good
Hey,
donuts.
yeah. Oh man, that's awesome.
But I do think there's a sense where for him and for all pastors, like leading people with a level of your own moral clarity of, you know, in a world that's so wishy-washy and everything is complex and nuanced, who's the voice that's just like, no, that's not right. We don't do that. Let's not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, it's unique of him to look at something that most every pastor would probably say, yeah, I'll do that. I'd be honored to do that.
Right.
Where he's like, something's not right about this. And do we have that kind of moral clarity, you know, when things kind of just evolve or change over time? Because can you imagine if like a godly grandfather of us just was dropped into our culture, or the Apostle Paul was dropped into our culture? What level of moral clarity would he be like, wait, you guys do what? As you know,
Right.
that we're just kind of numb to.
That moment reminds me too of, remember Keith Green at that one big festival, kind of Woodstock-esque.
Got up and read Amos 4.
Yeah.
Like,
Because he was
away with your festivals and
It was amazing. Like this
Yeah.
moment of clarity from the Spirit kind of came to him, and he's like,
yeah.
I'm not just going to add more entertainment to this moment. I'm going to
Yeah.
call him out. Yeah.
It's so interesting. I had a couple thoughts come to mind. One is like Eugene Peterson. Is he kind of like the Bob Dylan of pastors? Like, Bob Dylan, kind of this reclusive guy.
It is
But
true,
then
yeah.
when you brought up Keith Green, did you know Bob Dylan played harmonica on some of Keith Green's songs?
What?
Yeah, he had was a part of Bob Dylan coming to Christ.
I did not know that.
I'm trying to remember the song.
That's amazing.
I can picture the song. But yeah, in No Compromise, it talks about that. And then his years of Bob Dylan, like coming to Christ, but then walked away. Like people were like leaving his concerts and,
Wow.
and I think Keith Green wrote a song about that too, about Bob Dylan's kind of walking away. You can run to the end of the highway and not find what you're looking for. I think that's right.
Wow. That's
James,
Yeah,
did you?
I looked up. So yeah, on Keith Green's album. So you want to go back to Egypt? Bob Dylan played harmonica.
no
on that album.
way on
Yeah.
that song.
That album.
On that
That song
album, I don't know
100
what.
times or
Yeah,
whatever, but
but yeah,
Yeah. So they.
most people listening are like, who is Keith Green?
Yeah.
We were speaking with such familiar.
Well, or who is Bob Dylan? You said a lot of 20-year-olds listen to this. Okay.
Well, they know
No, I guess,
Timothy
yeah,
Chalamet.
no,
yeah, they watched
it's
the
a
movie.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
yeah.
true. That's
I do think Eugene Peterson was probably nicer than Bob Dylan.
in general.
I think
Did
their
you-
demeanor's
Can
probably a little
you
different.
just cultural reference? Can you? I mean, what's the backstory? Did you watch the Bob
Yeah,
Dylan movie?
yeah.
How was it?
I loved it. I thought it was really good.
Really?
Yeah.
What is the? Can you? What's this kind of?
Bob Dylan
Summary of
is
the play.
just kind of the consummate artist. You know, he just did his own thing, his own way. Brought a really unique voice, and it was very, I don't know, kind of contrarian. The movie shows his kind of progression from being kind of a pure folk singer to more of a rock artist. You know, he's just like, don't put me in a box. I'm not going to, you know, just be your dancing monkey. I'm going to do what I want to do. So yeah, I thought it was really well portrayed. Yeah, great movie, but yeah, Bob Dylan.
Can you look up what year Keith Green died? Just-
Yeah.
1982,
Was it 82?
Yeah.
I knew it was right in there because
Pretty
it was
sure,
right after I came to know Christ.
82 or 83, maybe.
Yeah, 82.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Keith Green, just real quick, one funny Bob Dylan. Did you, there's something I think on Netflix, The Best Night in Entertainment History, where they had all the artists coming together for singing We Are the World.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that.
And do you guys see that? Mm-hmm. But it's kind of the backstory of that, and really fascinating because always huge personalities and stars. But the part where Stevie Wonder is like teaching Bob Dylan how to sing his part in Bob Dylan's voice and style.
Oh.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
It's hilarious.
Because Bob Dylan couldn't get the melody. He couldn't figure out like how he would sing it. And Stevie Wonder does it in his like
and not even in a patronizing way,
no.
in this really cool way. Like,
I was like,
hey man, let me help you out. He's
like
blind.
That was hilarious. What
that's a documentary. What's it called?
Isn't it? Is it
remember.
like Best Night in Entertainment History? Yeah, I think it's.
I'll say this about Bob Dylan. I saw him live in Ames. This was like 7 or 8 years ago. He played in Ames.
What?
And he comes out and, he just looks like he doesn't want to be there. He doesn't say a single word to the audience. There's no like, how we doing, Ames? I mean, he just gets out there, band starts playing, plays his songs. No song is done in the way that you know it. So he did, the times there are changing, but it didn't sound like it at all until you hear that lyric. Like, oh, I think that's what this song is.
Oh,
but he did not say a word to the audience. Honestly, I came away from that thinking like, man, that was, I don't think he likes what he's doing. I don't know. He's a very
and then just
complex
walk off
person.
the stage afterward.
Yeah.
Wow. Back to Keith Green. And I think that maybe Bob Dylan is a secular version of he's kind of the, I guess, voice in the wilderness, trying to be, I don't know if he's trying to be enigmatic and that, just artist out there doing his own thing. But Keith Green. So Keith Green was like a singing prophet. Mm-hmm. You can just hear him almost crying out in his, do you see all the people sinking down? Don't you care? The asleep in the light. And he's like a singing prophet. He's my favorite. Like when I'm making big decisions in life, I listen to Keith, and there's something about his music that, because it probably takes you so long to like it, you like it for longer. Because it's not.
It doesn't fit in a genre very easily. It's not like it's too rock and roll or it's too folk or whatever, because
it's just his own thing.
Totally.
Yeah. So I love him, and I wonder who are the singing prophets today? I mean, I know back in the 90s, you could say maybe Rich Mullins.
Mm-hmm. That's the only one that came to mind when you brought that up.
Was kind of that. Do we have any?
I have no idea.
Here's the thing that's hard about that question too is I was talking about this with somebody that when I first came to know Christ, this is before the World Wide Web. And so whatever Christian music you were listening to was either because you were close enough to a Christian radio station. Mm-hmm. So the playlist was whatever those disc jockeys were putting out there. So you didn't have access to today to make it big or whatever, in air quotes. You would have to figure out a way to connect with people on so many different platforms and mediums, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the sheer number of people out there makes it more difficult, I think, to connect with them in a way that you could back when there were way fewer artists kind of producing the level of stuff that we would all listen to.
Yeah.
Now it's like, holy cow, they're just myriad. You know what I mean? Don't you think it's a little bit hard? Yeah. It's harder to find that.
One thing that's really changed too in Christian music is the Christian worship has become like the industry. It's like worship music. And so that, there used to be, it just wasn't a huge catalog to sing from, like Hosanna and, As the Deer Panteth for the Water. And then, you're just like camp songs and then you had others kind of blazing the trail for worship. And now has that do you think that has kind of cheapened worship a little bit? I don't know, Jake. Marcy's in the songwriting world and goes down to Nashville and does stuff.
Yes, she would be the modern day prophet. I'd love her there. Check it out.
Hey, but she doesn't listen to this anyway.
That's
so you
true.
didn't need to do that.
Yeah. In your conversations,
I think in songwriting, it's where the money's at. Because if you write a worship song that the radio will play and churches will sing, it's more profitable.
Wow.
James, do you feel that has cheapened the worship industry in your mind, or worship? Like, do you ever feel like when you listen to stuff, do you feel like a tinge of
like this all sounds the same?
Yes,
this is all. Yeah, no, I definitely do. It is such a, the songs we're singing at churches are primarily, I mean, if you go into like who's writing these songs, like so many of the names are the same, that are writing for different bands, but like Bethel, Hillsong, Elevation. You've got a few that are just pumping out the most music. There's the most money involved in that. It is hard not to get a little like, okay. Seriously,
Marcy's been in some circles where they're writing worship songs with a group of people, and they'll come right out and say, like, shoot down certain lyrics because that hits that theological camp, and we want to write a song that everybody can sing.
Wow!
So their goal is to make money. Well, you need the widest audience, and for the widest audience, you need the most diluted lyrics, the most. So that's a unfortunate thing. One thing that I find weird so it used to be growing up in the 90s, like Christian music was music. It wasn't like congregational worship music. It was just Christian themed music. So to go and hear a concert and you're listening to a Christian artist do their songs and stories, but now to go to a Christian concert and it's a worship conference and you pay to go worship feels weird. I've never done that, but that would be weird to me.
That is interesting.
You're talking about paying to go to a conference or paying
a concert.
Concert.
But the concert is corporate worship.
Isn't that interesting how even when I was growing up, you had DC Talk, Newsboys. You got these. Yeah. Maybe some of their songs could be worship songs, but it was not worship music. This is just music about very specific themes. It's made to be listened to, not worship belong to. But now, Christian radio, I mean, worship music is the thing. That's almost become the genre.
That's kind of true, too, that it used to be we had special music that wasn't necessarily, it was more of those prophetic words to and we don't do that at all, right? We don't have people just solo a song. It is all worship music, not just out there in the World Wide Web, but in our local churches too, right? Is that?
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a connection there. You know what I mean? That songs that are put out there are to be corporately, just worship music.
James, how would you describe the difference between Veritas worship and what you hear just out there, mainstream worship? Do you think that, like, when you guys write, is there an intentional, like, we're I don't know, is there a sound you're going for, a sound you're not going for?
Yeah.
I mean,
this is great. We're having this conversation right now. This is what we've been talking about, is how much do we want to kind of just sound like the worship music genre? There's this thing where as soon as you're flipping through the radio stations, you don't need to hear a lyric before you know, like, oh, I'm listening to a Christian station. Like, this is Christian music. Yeah. There's certain instrumentation, a certain sound, which it's been engineered to be corporate. It's been made to be easy to sing along to, easy to engage to. And I think that's good, that when we're worshiping in church, that we're not making the melodies too complex, hard to follow. Like, we do want it to be
singable.
Yeah, singable for people.
Right.
But I do think that has really compressed the creativity. And so we do always fight against that. I think our sensibilities, Lauren's a huge champion for just we gotta make it unique, make it creative. Like, we don't want it to sound like
don't wash it
everything
out.
else, you know?
Yeah.
So I can't say exactly where we've landed on that, but that's always a tension that we feel.
Wow.
Right.
I got a frustration though when we've fallen into saying that worship music is a genre of music. I think that's very ethnocentric.
Yes.
To think there's a certain sound and that sound is worship music.
Right.
Where you go to other cultures and it's like, well, that doesn't sound like worship music. Well, yeah, it's not for, I mean, it's very ignorant for us to give worship music a genre of music. It's got the pad and it's got what, it's like you go to Mexico, you go to Africa, you go to African-American churches, like you're going to be like, well, that doesn't sound like worship to you.
Right.
But they've been worshiping to this music so I think we need to be careful putting a genre to it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
What would you call it then? What's the non-ethnocentric American corporate worship?
You have music and the posture and the lyrics make it worship. So you can have, a gospel kind of funk to it. You can have a reflective orchestra type to it. You can have a Latin type vibe to it. You can have a ton of hymns that are out of like Appalachian bluegrass type of feel. So you can't be like, oh, well, that's not worship, it's bluegrass. It's like, no, it's I'll Fly Away. It's a famous worship song. So the posture of the heart and the lyrics, the truth of the lyrics and the expression of it to God makes it worship, not the instrumentation. I would say, I don't know what you guys, the conversation you guys have around that.
How is Veritas Cedar Rapids, what's your worship culture? How would you describe it? How would you describe worship, corporate worship at Veritas Cedar Rapids?
Yeah, we're having the same conversations now of sometimes it feels like we're trapped in this kind of identity crisis of like, who are we? Because we're a culture that's like, we don't do smoke, we don't do lights, like, we don't try to do that. We care about theology in our songs, maybe more so than some other churches that we'd be like, yeah, I know they sing that, we don't. Here's why. But we're not like hymns and organ. And so we're trying to find ourselves. And it's interesting because I like the plurality, but if any one of us kind of had the wheel to ourselves, we would take it a certain way. Right. So we're trying to find collaboratively.
If you were the worship leader at Veritas, what would your culture be? Would you be singing more hymns and more?
Oh man, if I was, I'd probably stand alone on this. It would be like, if like a sovereign grace type theology and strong hymns, lyrics, but done by Wolfpack Band. That's it.
Wolfpack Band?
Wolfpack. Wolfpack.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's like funk.
Yeah.
Oh, funk. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking it would have been more like Chris Stapleton style.
I was just seeing pictures
like
of Veritas Cedar Rapids worship. Like, you're not afraid to bring a trombone up there, a trumpet up there, whatever. Yeah. And so there's a lot more
horns. I love a bass player that can play. I love that kind of groove and funk. In Phoenix, was a member of an African American church. Went to a Korean church in Chicago, so kind of had a lot of different flavors. And I think a lot of times in the culture that we find ourselves now, what people, and I'm projecting what might be said, but what people feel like, oh, that was worshipful, was a song that made me want to raise my hands. Mm-hmm. Like it just felt this was a fitting response. But in a lot of the other contexts, it's like, that made me bob my head. That made me want to clap. It's like, I like that.
Or
I like them both. I like them both. So, but I think part of our discipleship should be in our churches to teach people that you should be able to worship in a variety of ways. Right. because we don't want our people that we pastor to get to heaven and be like, when they going to do the worship music? Oh, it's happening, right? So
It's true.
what about you? What
Well,
would
but by
your
the same token,
preferences
it's
be?
okay that you, I guess, reflect the culture you're in. Also, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if we felt like, well, we want to honor all genres and global worship, and
Sure.
so all of a sudden I brought Zambian songs in, and you guys, you got to learn that. It's like, well,
Totally.
you know what I mean? Like,
But when you have a bit of a mix in your congregation,
sure,
then how do you have a bit of that?
yep,
And probably what you lean into, you'll get more of.
yeah.
What I want to know, your guys, is like you're the band leader.
King.
What's
Dude, it was funny. I got Matty Cakes shared his nice guy Matt. He was part of our worship team in the old Anthem days. We in the mid 2000s started this worship event called Anthem, and it was kind of a coming together of our youth and Salt Company and kind of next generation worship. And we wrote songs and made some albums. And it's cool because in some ways Veritas was kind of planted out of that. There was a point where we thought about calling our church Anthem Church because of Anthem worship, and a bunch of the band, came to Iowa City to plant. And when we got to the Matty Cakes thing was he sent James and I some pictures of. You shared the folder to the Google Drive with just some old pictures from that time period. But
Back in the day,
2008.
was it?
Wow.
Yeah, 2008.
That
Crazy.
is so fun.
And but anyway, when we came to Iowa City, we did it for like a year, kept Anthem band together, and did an Anthem event, and then we just kind of parted ways a little bit, and we went more of we called it Adalea. It was more of a folky kind of style, but it kind of, that was the year Mumford and Sons was kind of coming onto the scene, and it seemed to fit more the hipster flannel wearing culture of Iowa City. So we started that Adaleo, and that was, I love that. I mean, that was a fun season, and people got behind it. But it was more like, I think that my reflection on that is, and even the songs that were written from Anthem, some of the songwriters, and I think that the beauty of it is, for me, it's drawing out the talent that's there. It's that the thing that maybe you miss a little bit in just plug and play, Phil Wickham and stuff. It's like, well, what if Phil Wickham or David Crowder or Michael W. Smith is like a 19-year-old in your ministry? That's my heart, is to say the gifts within the congregation, what comes out. You guys got a trombone player.
You're right. but so when we were in Manchester, there was a guy in our church who is a world-class bluegrass musician. So banjo, fiddle, it's like, well, he's in our church.
Yeah.
Right. So, but if somebody was like, yeah, that's not really worship style, that would have totally neglected his gifts that could serve the body. So even like, it may not be an under every Sunday thing, but it's like, you got somebody that plays the harp. It's like, all right, how can we,
this is an interesting moment. And we talked about Bono earlier, but they all came to Christ in it was like mid to late 70s, and their pastor kind of came out of the Watchman Nee movement, and it was like this real, like, on fire for Christ, we're living for God, but it was almost cultic. But they all like had basically conversion experiences, and they came, and they basically told their pastor, like, hey, like, we're kind of hitting it big, and we want to use this for God's glory. And he was like, God doesn't want your rock and roll. And it was like a moment for them of like, just a deep hurt, because that's what they wanted to use that, and if you, anyway, that
isn't it funny though, how some genres would evoke that and some not. Because as you were talking earlier, when I was living in Los Angeles, Christopher Parkening, who is still a classical guitarist, he was in our church. So every now and then he would play classical guitar. Maybe the night before he was with the Los Angeles Philharmonic or whatever, you know what I mean? And there he is doing a hymn. It was so worshipful. I'd never even heard a classical guitar before I'd heard him. But is it 12 strings? How many are strings on a classical guitar?
Sometimes. I mean, 6 is traditional, but, you know.
I think, well, he had a 12 string. I know nothing about guitar. I just remember that in my mind, so that's why I had to double check.
You got more strings.
Yeah, but it was phenomenal. And because then he would do a hymn that was somewhat familiar, it was a beautiful worship experience. And so that's that same kind of thing where you don't go looking for a classical guitarist so that you can have that experience. But if there's somebody in your church, so I'm just saying, but if that had been a Bono, would they have been invited to come up or whatever?
Yeah.
But I
say,
I was thinking, does jazz though, like as much as I love jazz, would I want to worship along with jazz? So I don't know. I wonder if some genre is more.
I think there is a corporate aspect of it where it needs to build up the body.
Yeah,
like the eye can't just be like, hey, this morning we're just all gonna be in. I mean, it has to be express the body of Christ. But yesterday in our we had this staff do one thing we opened mic and there's some people that got up there and James, you were one and
you were one.
Well, but they were bringing I was, but they were bringing songs they wrote.
Yeah,
and I just, oh my word, when Evelyn got up there and started singing, I was like, this is so beautiful. And I don't know if she'd ever shared that with anyone. And
she was the most reluctant person to do what she did and just felt compelled by the words.
No, I didn't know she wrote music at all. So that was really cool.
So that is a picture of what I love about the body of Christ. Just like when we do the writing prompts on our staff day away and we say, hey, go off, take a couple hours and write about, and we fill in the blank. Like here's your writing prompt, go write about it and read it to each other. Though I love that so much because what comes out of people, you see, I think that is my heart related to worship is to see the expression and the gifts of God's people. And maybe not every song makes it to the corporate worship level, but we did that with, do you remember I had is this pre-Anthem? I think it was my first round of being a worship leader in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was after Salt Company. We're like, hey, we're going to record an album. And if you want to audition your song, come like after Salt Company. We just stuck around for 2 hours, had a mic, and people would come and play their songs. It was amazing. We ended up recording some of them. And what you see come out of people, I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's fun.
That's actually where I met you, Mark.
Really?
Was in that process. I was a freshman, and I wrote one of those songs.
No way. What song was it?
At Jocko's, right?
It was called
at Jocko's.
Oh, well, there must have been multiple rounds of this.
Yeah, I think so.
I wrote a song called Letting Go. That
Wow.
was on the little
You wrote
EP.
Let It Go?
Let It
Let it go.
Like, whoa.
Yeah.
Frozen.
A big deal.
We spurned it, but then
They picked it up. James,
got to start somewhere.
could we ever do an Average Pastor podcast where we bring on some musicians and they play? Like just, I don't know.
Like a tiny desk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, don't get Dalton started on Tiny Desk right now.
Oh,
Is he into it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great rabbit. That's a great rabbit hole to get stuck in.
Yeah.
There's some really cool. I love when it comes to that.
Yes,
So
100%.
yeah. So anyway, who's in charge of this conversation anyway? I don't know.
I think it's you.
But,
Pretty sure.
Anyway, we've been talking about music, and that's a fun topic. We had some. What do you think about volume in the auditorium? Do you ever think your auditorium's too loud? Do you ever get complaints about volume?
You know, it's interesting. You get complaints from both sides. It's too loud. It's not loud enough.
Really?
Have we ever gotten
You
a
get both
complaint?
sides.
I don't think we've ever got a complaint that it's too soft, too quiet.
Yeah, we've.
Have we?
Yeah, no.
Do you get many complaints though about it being too loud? I haven't heard those in a while.
We just got one
Oh.
today, actually. But no, that's
Not to
it.
rub
I mean,
salt in your wound.
did you know about this? Or are you just bringing it up? Okay, yeah. I mean,
You get comments.
yeah. But it's been a long time. Like it's actually not very frequent
Yeah,
that we do.
Yeah.
surprisingly.
It's every now and then during production meetings that I or one of the just people all in will bring because of where we're sitting in the auditorium.
Yeah.
The cymbals that day were a little whatever.
Right.
But as far as just somebody saying it's overall too loud, I just don't hear that.
I could see where, like this last week, I still have this ear infection, but it's like I feel like I'm talking in a can. But I was where I was standing and the way my ears like plugged, but it's like the frequencies and
Yeah.
stuff. I was almost like it was unbearable. But it got me thinking, like, yeah, as you age,
You'll
and I
experience
could
it.
see where, yeah, you. I don't know. I could see myself wearing earplugs as as I
Right.
get older, but I will see how that turns out.
But you know what? I've got a friend, not at Veritas, but he kind of made his opinion known about the volume at his local church, everything, and even did this thing. I don't know if you remember this, James, but recorded the level of what's the measure of
Yes, decibel, yeah.
decibels at a train stood by a train on a train track and then a lawnmower and then at the church. It was like trying to say
Really?
there are people that get damage in their ears. Anyway, but once he made his his claim, he just respectfully either uses earplugs or steps out during the loudest part of
Yeah.
worship and comes back in and just remains a healthy part of the church and just is like, well, I lost that battle.
Yeah.
I made my case.
We had
and I kind of respect that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That-
We had a lady in Arizona, so in our Sunday evening services, we'd actually set up more speakers. It's kind of a little bit of a younger crowd, and it was loud. But we'd also have a basket of earplugs that you can get earplugged. Well, to make her point, she didn't get the earplugs. She brought in like lawnmower to wear to make sure everybody
In order
knew.
everybody
Yeah.
knew.
Oh wow.
This is a silent
great.
protest right here.
Hey Jake, I would just change the subject, but I heard this week Jeff was saying that you guys are doing a Sunday night event, or not event, but it's like
The first Sunday of
member?
every month, we do a members
what is it? Yeah, tell me about it.
prayer, worship, slow down, take communion together, any extra teaching.
I'm so intrigued.
Tell a story.
Yeah, what-
you guys should come next time.
I think we should.
What,
Yeah.
why did you start that?
Several reasons. We wanted to try to make a big church feel smaller, family. We wanted another additional teaching time to disciple our people and talk about things we were not getting to on Sunday. We wanted a chance to, on a Sunday morning, it feels like, you finish one service, get everybody out, get the next crew, you're just rushed. So to have a context where slow down, we're not worried about the time, we can do extended times of prayer, take communion all together in a different way. So to make a big church feel small, kind of fight for that family feel, do extra teaching. We also recognize we need to do a better job of informing our people of the good things that are going on. So each time we'll tell a different story. And then if there's church discipline issues or announcements, like we have frequent touch points with our members.
I even just dig just that part that you just tacked on there, that membership actually matters. So it's okay that we have lots of visitors and lots of people that come and grateful. This awesome Sunday morning experience. But this is just the family. This is just the members. These are the people who are dedicated to this church family and identify themselves as part of this church
So that's a member meeting.
Yep, members only.
Members only.
Yeah.
And we'll tell everybody it's okay to cancel Connection Group that week and make this a priority.
What are some examples of teaching topics that hit there that you guys did, that an example of like extra teaching that you wouldn't have covered on Sunday morning?
Back in October, we addressed politics, Christian politics. I'm trying to think what else we've done. it really gives us a platform to address anything that we feel we need to. in our
The
church.
one that really caught my attention was they made a longer, like 20-minute long video of a guy that was disciplined, church disciplined, through that came to repentance and came back to Christ. And the whole storyline of that was a 20-minute long video. So that'd be tough to do on a Sunday morning, whatever. But
Yeah.
but somebody worked hard. The videographers or whatever worked hard. But what an appropriate thing. Adam remember being, hey, we got time.
Oh.
We're going to take time to show this entire
And
story.
it was at a members meeting where we read a letter that we had sent to this individual that was removing him from our church. So then to show a video of us welcoming him back, like he got a standing ovation. It was a sweet moment for
wow.
our church
Because
family.
how long between when the letter was written or read, and then when that
2 to 3 years.
that's what I was thinking. It was a long time. So the idea that let's get together and celebrate this
Yeah.
the lost has
Come
been
home.
found,
Yeah. So that was just there's church family. I think a lot of it was driven by maybe selfishly my own memories of a kid. Fondest memories of a kid growing up in church was Sunday night. It was more relaxed. It felt more like family. Mom and dad talked with the other parents as we ran around the church. We weren't rushed to get home. And that was church. And the first time we did it, I remember telling Marcy, it's like, it feels like I went to church for the first time in a long time. Like it was, and we're small town people. So you're looking out and be like, oh, I recognize most everybody here. And we're not
Even
rushed.
the way you do it, the time that you've chosen to do it was intentional.
When is
Yeah,
it?
we do 4 to 5:30. So afterwards, we say hang out. You don't have to rush off. I mean, if you got to go. But or go out to ice cream with people, or go out to eat with people, or hang around the building. So we just try to be a little more.
How many people come?
It's probably 400. I mean, we would like to see a higher percentage of our members, but it's for those that come, we love it. I think
That's
the
great.
people that are there love it.
Yeah. That's very cool. But you do it in the auditorium, so it still feels.
We just need to have you guys come up and teach some for
no,
Sunday.
just sit
No, I
in
mean,
the
that'd be
back
fun
and
to-
watch. I'd
yeah,
just
just-
love to
yeah.
sit in the back and watch.
Well, yeah, I remember Sunday night church. I don't have fond memories.
You don't
I
have.
was like,
You were like,
we had to miss all the 3:00 football games because it's like a little salty over that. But
it is tough. Like, a part of me wants to recapture the Lord's Day, like it used to be. Like, there's so much competition for people's time, and I would rather ask more on Sundays and less during the week. But I mean, I was reminded again. Of course, I get up really early on Sundays. I preach 3 sermons, took a nap, and I was like, "Oh, we got to go back." I mean, I was not wanting to, but as 5 minutes into the service, I'm like, I love this. So glad I did. But yeah, it's hard to
yeah,
get up and go again. And
Yeah.
but you're also home by 6 easily,
Right.
and you got your evening still. So
I like that. There's something
yeah,
cool about
it's
that.
a great idea. You guys doing any other ministry stuff I need to know about till we can?
we can also copy.
we try a lot of things, and then it's like, it didn't work.
Hey, tell about your summer series, what you're doing, the different preachers coming up.
Grab back.
It's
not helping. I just
Jeff said it was.
in our elder meeting this morning, we were just doing some reviews, and one of the weaknesses, it's like somebody said summer coasting, and I was like, oh. So my summer coasting series, and we're doing a series called Sweeter Than Honey, where every preacher gets one verse, your favorite verse. Just come up and preach their verse and show us your love for the text, and so easy standalone messages that are.
But I dig that.
Yeah.
Just what are some lifelong anchor points from the scriptures?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's our summer teaching skewers, Jeff?
Don't even.
Sweeter than candy. It's totally different.
Favorite movie?
Original
Come preach on your favorite movie.
Yeah. Mark's going to come up and take us down his candy aisle.
Yeah, oh, there you go.
Do you guys know what book you're going to do next year? Are you still going to be in Luke? Or?
So yeah, that's the fun part about Luke is what we've decided to do is take it in kind of little mini series, you know. So and it keeps us just in the life of Christ, you know what I mean? Rather than feeling pressure to finish all of Luke, it's, you know, big book.
Yeah.
But there's some very natural breaks in it and stuff. So I love the fact that we can take our time because we're not trying to get it all in one semester or 1 year, whatever, you know what I mean? So yeah, because right now, I mean, I don't know how many total weeks we've done, but we're still in chapter 6 of Luke. But it's not like people are feeling like it's just a grind or something. I mean, it's
fun to go slow.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, from a preaching standpoint, I think it's so much better to slow down and just stop and enjoy the view. I mean, just even the workload of commentary work, and when you're doing huge sections, you just practically you can't.
Yeah, remember when we did Ruth and 1st and 2nd Samuel, like a sprint?
Oh yeah,
that was
tough.
It was good. I mean, it's good to take bigger chunks into it, but yeah, as a preacher, I would agree.
Yeah,
smaller bites are
got
better.
some bookends on it.
Yeah,
yeah,
cool. All right. Well, any other closing thoughts before we wrap it up? Things you guys agitated about anything in the world? You want
to end with that? Any closing thoughts? You want to start a new rant?
So you want to vent on your way out?
What's making you guys just really mad right now?
Besides, by the time this is released, this too has gone away. This has passed.
Anything you need to get off your chest, Jake, as we close?
Yeah, when we shut these cameras and microphones off, we can have a vent session.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Well, it's that's good conversation. Well, hey, we got to talk about James, we'll talk about the worship. That'd be fun to do. Yeah. Cool. Bring some songwriters and people on and have the worship conversation.
And it's got to be a tiny dust thing. Like even do it down here in the basement or something. You know what I mean? Where it's not on stage. It's not just doing something really like this, but with worship.
We're in prime fire porch season. It was raining out, so we audibled down to the study, but fire porch session. This is prime.
That'd be so great. We got to make that happen.
All right, so cool. Well, Jake, you want to sign us off as we close here?
Yeah.
What you got?
This is a lot of pressure. Like it feels like the end is like you have to land. It's like you could have a great flight and a crash landing.
This is average.
So this is the Average Pastor podcast crash landing. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, but nobody watched. Thanks for the couple people that watched. Thanks for listening. It's been fun.
Hey, by the way, having said that, it's pretty cool though.
It's like, Jake, do you want to close this? I try, and it's like,
no. I'm trying to save you right now, Jake. We had somebody write into us because they actually listened all the way from Ohio.
That's right. We never got to their.
Here's what the only thing I know. I invited him to be a guest because he's the only one that's ever written to us. So I invited him onto our podcast. But besides that, I do want to say sincere thanks to people who are listening in. It's not uncommon. I think easily every week. I'll have different ones come and tell me something specific that they. So if you're still listening out there, man, we love you and thanks. I'm glad that our friendship and our bantering actually can have a.
It would be because he wrote in a question. It would be great if we had an episode where just send in questions and we're
trying to bake some kind of. Can we hear from anybody?
Well, we don't even have an email address, so
he had to work to find.
Yeah, he just emailed the church, I think.
So if someone did want to send in questions, what would they do?
From Ryan from Kentucky.
That's a great question. Somebody should really figure out the mechanism for that
and figure out the summer teaching schedule.
Our landing to this podcast is like the.
Whoops.
It's like the what was that? What was that airline that they hit?
We've
and it-
landed. We're taxiing right now. This is just
okay.
we're
taxiing to the.
yeah.
No, I was thinking,
Keep
what
your
was the
seatbelts
plane that hit and it like flipped over and slid out?
and they all lived.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's
Hey,
true here
it's
too.
like this. We're taxiing. We're sliding into the. Oh goodness!
That's
all
not me.
right.
So I'll just say, hey, see you next time, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. It's been fun. See you next time.